It was a sunny day. George decided to play hide and seek with Pepper. This time, he wanted to find the best hiding spot where Pepper would never think to look and where it would be safe. So, when no one was watching, he climbed into a trash can. It was quite comfortable there. George could sit there for a long time. At this time, Pepper was looking for him and couldn't find him anywhere. The hiding place really seemed good. After a while, he even started to fall asleep. But then, he felt something strange. Daddy Pig tied the trash bag and put it outside. Mr. Bull came to pick up the bag, as he usually does, but he didn't know that George was inside. After Mr. Bull threw the bag into the garbage collector, George woke up and tried to understand what was happening. He started screaming, but no one could hear him because of the noisy machine. His heart started beating faster, and his breathing became heavier. He quickly felt a lack of oxygen and managed to rip the bag. He looked around and realized where he was. He was very scared. He just sat and cried, waiting for the machine to stop. He kept going and going until it reached the top. Everything was over, and he could run out and ask Mr. Bull for help. But then the garbage started pouring out. A pile of garbage fell on George at the dump. He managed to get out of there. He was all disorganized. Then Mr. Bull was already driven off. He looked around and saw that there was stench everywhere and there were no edges of this dump. Waste was brought here from several settlements. He decided that Mr. Bull would come to this place the next day and he could ask him to take him home, so he just had to wait here for some time. But it would be torturous. George was dirty with something sticky, and there were no means of survival here, nothing to do. All he did was dig through the trash, looking for something interesting, until suddenly he realized he was hungry. All he could find was a couple of apple cores, a couple of half-rotten pears, and moldy bread. He ate a couple of apple cores. It was unpleasant, but the feeling of hunger started to pass. By evening, he was very thirsty. He found a few rotten tomatoes in a bag. They were very soft and had leaked juice. George made a hole in the bag and drank the contents. It was the most disgusting thing he had ever tasted in his life. But it was already getting dark, so George would have to spend the night somewhere. He was afraid of the dark and needed to find some cozy spot. He found it. He put a few torn clothes under himself and covered himself with a blanket he found. In the morning, he would wake up and wait for this machine. Either it would wake him up with its noise. He was sure that everything would be fine the next day. And when morning came, the machine really did come, waking him up.
Stop, 7. Stop. You're being bad.
It was a day off. In the morning at about 9 o'clock, everyone gathered for breakfast. The parents had fun, not knowing that this was the last time they would see George today. Pepper went to play with George. Mummy Pig washed the dishes and sat down with Daddy Pig to watch TV. Later, Daddy Pig took the garbage out. Mummy Pig cooked the food and called everyone to eat. Everyone came, except George. Pepper said they were playing hide and seek, and George might still be hiding. The last time she saw him was about an hour ago. Mummy Pig called out to him again, but no one came. Mummy Pig was immediately alarmed. This had never happened before. They went as a family to look for George. They went through all the rooms, calling for him, but he didn't answer. They thought it was just an inappropriate joke from George. Now they started looking in every basket. They rummaged around and they didn't find him. They realized that George was not at home. They didn't know how he could have gotten out, so his door was locked. They called the police. The search began. George's parents started looking outside, going to all the places he might be. They searched all day and never gave up hope. But they didn't find anything.
Wait.
The The next morning, they went into the woods. They walked for hours looking for George, until they realized they were lost. They continued walking through the forest. They didn't want to be reported missing the next day. They wandered for hours until they saw a trail of blood that led somewhere. This trail of blood had been left today. They were terrified. They had no idea who could have done this. As they walked a little ways down the trail, they saw a shoe. It was George's shoe. Daddy Pig pulled out a knife, and they sped up, hoping they could find George alive. The tracks led them straight to the dump. They led right under the wrecked car. George slept underneath this car. He was in the dump after playing hide and seek in the rubbish bin and woke up to a car crushing him. The car broke his leg under its weight, but because of the shock, he didn't feel it. He could hardly breathe, but he managed to squeeze under this rusty machine, cutting himself badly. He began his fight for life. He had been at this junkyard for a day waiting for help, and now realized he needed to find someone himself, and crawled forward. He couldn't walk because of his broken leg, and was poisoned by the food he had eaten at the dump. As he crawled through the forest, he was already sure it was the end. Daddy and Mummy Pig realized they were going the wrong way, and ran back. But there was no one at the other end either. They looked closely and saw the footprints of an adult. The footprints led to a house. They knocked on the door and Grumpy Rabbit opened it. It was him, who picked George up and brought him to his house. He told George's mother to get to the village, and they carried George in their arms.
Give it to me, you got
They
paper
tried
in
to
your
find out
mouth.
what was happening to George in Grumpy Rabbit's house. But George did not answer.